So, for our designated topic today, we'll be reviewing about the cardiovascular system. What is the cardiovascular system? It's simply another way of speaking about the circulatory system. It consists of the heart, which is a muscular pumping device and composes of a closed system of vessels called arteries, veins, and capillaries. The system is crucial to the human anatomy as it brings oxygen, nutrients, and hormones to the cells. It also helps fight infections and also helps remove cell waste and regulate body temperature. To the right, it would be a series of essential questions. So, for the first question, we'll be answering how do arteries, capillaries, and veins work together to move blood from the heart to the body and back? Blood from the heart is pumped throughout the body using blood vessels, with arteries carrying blood away from the heart and into capillaries providing oxygen to tissues and cells. Once oxygen manages to be removed, the blood travels back to the lungs and being reoxygenated, it returns by veins to the heart. Another question will be what are the major structures of the heart? The heart consists of four chambers, the two upper atria and the two ventricles, all serving different purposes in how the heart manages to work. As the right atrium receives oxygen-poor blood, it pumps it to the right ventricle, which then pumps to the lungs. The left atrium would receive oxygen and rich blood from the lungs and pumps it to the left ventricle. So why are heart valves so important? With these heart valves, they serve to open correctly so blood can empty from the chamber and close properly, so blood flows forward rather than preventing a backward flow of blood. To the right of this slide, you will see a diagram of what we just went over the last slide. It simply just gives a visual of how the blood works and which veins they go through and how they go through the valves and whatnot. So we're going to also continue with another series of essential questions towards this topic. It'll be, for the first question, what are the functional and structural differences between a systemic and pulmonary circuit? The pulmonary circulation moves blood between the heart and the lungs, whereas systemic circulation serves a purpose to move blood between the heart and the rest of the body. How is the structure of arteries, veins, and capillaries adapted to their pressure? Each happen to be adapted to this condition withstanding a different amount of pressure, with each side having different sizes and walls of the ventricles and the vein. Within this slide, we are going over how the cardiovascular system manages to interconnect with another different system. For this chosen one, we have chosen the endocrine system. As a recap, the endocrine system serves as a series of glands that produce and secrete hormones that the body uses to control several bodily functions, such as respiration, metabolism, and reproduction. See, these two systems happen to be interconnected as cardiovascular tissues are endocrine organs and stimuli in which affect the cardiovascular system to work through hormone receptors. For this slide, we will also be going on another series of essential questions. For our first question, what do systolic and diastolic pressure mean when a person is measuring blood pressure? Systolic measures the pressure in your arteries when your heart beats, whereas diastolic measures the pressure in your arteries when your heart rests between beats. On to the next question. How do cardiac output and peripheral resistance affect blood pressure? Blood pressure increases with increased cardiac output, peripheral vascular resistance, the volume of blood, and rigidity of vessel walls. Blood pressure decreases with decreased cardiac output. What are the factors that affect blood pressure? Resistance, blood viscosity, and blood vessel diameter. Resistance in peripheral circulation is used as a measure of this factor. With vessels serving longer, it would equal to greater resistance, and viscosity being how thick your blood is.
For this sector of the presentation, we'll be reviewing over heart sounds, how these sounds are identified and measured, as well as introducing hypertension. In definition, heart sounds are simply the noises which are generated by the beating heart and the resultant flow of blood through it. Heart sounds manage to serve major importance in providing doctors with valuable information about heart function. So what causes the lumped up sounds that are heard when listening to the heart with a stethoscope? Normal heart sounds come in pairs. The first lub-dub is the sound of the mitral and the tricuspid valves closing. The second lub-dub is the sound of the aortic and pulmonary valves closing soon after. Now, how are heartbeats exactly measured? Heartbeats happen to be measured through monitors known as electrocardiograms. An electrocardiogram records the electrical signals in your heart. It's a common test used to detect heart problems and monitor the heart status in many situations. They are also called ECGs or EKGs. So, how do parts of a normal ECG wave correlate to the cardiac cycle? Electrocardiogram waves are represented with waves from the cardiac cycle, in which represent the sequence of depolarization and repolarization of the atria and ventricles. Moving on to hypertension. Hypertension, better known as high or raised blood pressure, is a condition in which the blood vessels have persistently been raised of pressure. You see, a heart pumping normally will have easy blood flow through the vessels. In comparison to a heart pumping harder, blood may not flow as easily through the vessels. When you're facing persistent high blood pressure, it can increase your risk of several serious and potentially life-threatening health conditions such as heart attacks, heart failure, vascular dementia, and strokes. High blood pressure can cause blood vessels in the brain to clog more easily or even burst. It damages your arteries that can become blocked and prevent blood flow through the heart muscle. For the final section of the presentation, we will be wrapping up with a histology of the major parts of the heart and how to remain heart healthy. The essential question is, what is hypertension and how is it affected by atherosclerosis? As spoken in the last slide, high blood pressure increases the risk of atherosclerosis. It raises the chance of developing complications that come with atherosclerosis, such as plaque buildups and heart attacks. Within these next slides, we will be covering the histology of the major arteries and veins of systemic, pulmonary, hepatic portal, and coronary circulation. Histology is simply the study of the microscopic structure of tissues, such as what you would see through a microscope. The essential question is, how does the difference in histology of arteries, veins, and capillaries relate to their functions? Arteries have a narrow internal diameter and thick muscular walls, allowing them to carry blood that is at high pressure, whereas capillaries are tiny, thin-walled vessels that form a network to take blood through the organs and other body tissues. Finally, the veins consisting of layers serving to return deoxygenated blood from your organs back to your heart. Now we see a series of essential questions. The first one is, what are the major arteries and veins in systemic circulation? The major arteries and veins in systemic circulation would fall to the aorta and the superior vena cava, along with the inferior vena cava. The next question is, what is the function of the hepatic portal system? The hepatic portal system serves to collect blood from the veins of the pancreas, spleen, stomach, intestines, and gallbladder, and directs it into the hepatic portal vein of the liver before it returns to the heart. The last question is, how does the myocardium receive oxygenated blood? The myocardium is simply the muscular tissue of the heart receiving oxygen-rich blood through coronary arteries from the pulmonary vein and pumps it into the aorta, while the right side of the heart receives deoxygenated blood from the vena cava and pumps it into the pulmonary vein. Finally, we will talk about how to remain heart healthy. Remaining heart healthy can be simply achieved by adapting good habits, including giving up or avoiding smoking, lowering your stress levels, maintaining a healthy weight, eating healthy, and staying active.